Alright, so in this chapter, we're going to study yet another type of connective tissue. So, if you recall, earlier we have studied in chapter 2, we studied the connective tissue proper, and chapter 3, we studied a specialized form of connective tissue. And what was special about it was that it contained some special cells on top of the normal connective tissue proper elements, right? And those special cells were the adipocytes that made up the adipose tissue, right? And there were two types of adipocytes. There was white adipocyte and there was brown adipocyte, and they would each form their respective adipose tissues, right? Similarly, we have yet another type of connective tissue to learn today. It's a tough and durable form of connective tissue called cartilage. So, what is cartilage? It's a connective tissue that is tough and durable. Tough and durable. Okay, and people usually have a general idea of what cartilage is. It is usually present between the bones, and everyone knows, everyone learns this in general anatomy, and we especially learn it when we study the 6 different types of synovial joints, and it is present between those joints and helps articulation between the bones. It also, because it's tough and durable, it helps form body structures. So, it is a tough and durable form of connective tissue, and it is also frictionless surface. So it has a frictionless surface. Okay, these are the two main characteristics of cartilage. It is tough and durable. Okay, and it has a frictionless surface. So the functions that it performs would be obviously something related to these characteristics. So if it has a frictionless surface, then it is found in articulating joints to help reduce the friction between movement joints, sliding joints, right? Similarly, if it's tough and durable, then it can be used for shock absorption, right? Or shaping different body structures, right? Another thing that cartilage is used is to serve in bone formation. We will study that later. So let's come to this diagram. Before we officially start with the histology, I want you guys to have a general understanding of what cartilage is. I want you guys to basically be up to par with the concept of what we're learning before we go into the details of histology, of how the cartilage develops this tough and durable characteristic, why is it frictionless, and the cellular structures that it contains. So, in this little diagram here that I have got 3 different kinds of cartilages. And obviously we study in anatomy that there's 3 different kinds of cartilages present between certain types of joints. Joints and other structures in our body. So there's 3 different kinds of cartilages. Can you remember the most common type of cartilage? That would be the hyaline cartilage, right? This is the most common type of cartilage that is usually present between different bone joints, right? And then we also have a very tough and durable form of cartilage. This is called the fibrocartilage. And then we also have the elastic cartilage, which has an elastic element to it, suggested by the name, right? So we have 3 different kinds of cartilages that we study in anatomy. Today we will study the histology of them, but just a quick review for the anatomy. We have the elastic cartilage colored in purple in the ears, right? Ears are elastic structures, and therefore the ears contain the elastic cartilage. Similarly, hyaline cartilage is present in between most bones of our body. So, for example, costal cartilage or articulating joints, especially contain the hyaline cartilage. Right? It is also present in the trachea. So we have C-shaped rings of the trachea, right, that keep the trachea open. Those C-shaped rings contain hyaline cartilage. Okay. Now, the last one is obviously fibrocartilage, which has 2 very common locations. Number 1 is intervertebral disc, okay, and number 2 is pubic symphysis. You should, I think, remember this. Between intervertebral disc, there's annulus pulposus, nucleus pulposus, and annulus fibrosus, right? The annulus fibrosus is the fibrocartilage part of the intervertebral disc. Similarly, the pubic symphysis is fibrocartilage. And this fibrocartilage, which is encoded in red here, is very, very tough and durable. Okay, very, very tough and durable. And we will study why that is in this chapter. All right, so let's look at the general structure of a general histological structure of what cartilage would look like. Okay, before we go into the specializations of hyaline cartilage and fibrocartilage and elastic cartilage, let's just look at the general structure and what it contains, right? So I'm going to draw a box here, and I'm going to draw the connective tissue that is cartilage inside of it. So let's see, what do we have here? We have the highlighter, and I'm going to color this purplish or light violet, and what I'm going to do is draw some lacunae. What am I doing? I'm drawing some lacunae, some spaces between this tissue, and inside those spaces there are cells. What's going on? Well, this right here is the general structure of what cartilage looks like. Okay, it has these lacunae, and inside these lacunae it has certain densely stained cells, right? And the lacunae are surrounded by an extracellular matrix, right? So this would be the ECM, the extracellular matrix, and it has these lacunae right here. So I'm going to write lacunae. And these lacunae contain densely stained cells, and these cells are called, well, what are they called? Any guesses? These are called chondrocytes. Okay, so these cells are the cells that are present in the cartilage. There's only one type of cell that is present in the cartilage, and that is the chondrocytes. There's no other types of cells in the cartilage. Okay, unlike the adipose tissue or the connective tissue proper, which had multiple different types of cells, even immune cells were present in connective tissue proper, and also in the adipose tissue we had the adipocytes and other cells. But over here in cartilage we only have the chondrocytes, and these chondrocytes are present within the lacunae, little spaces. And all of those lacunae are surrounded by an extracellular matrix. Now this extracellular matrix, what it's rich in is type 2 collagen. I'm going to write this down, type 2 collagen. What else? GAGs, proteoglycans, and hyaluronic acid. Okay, so ECM components, collagen and ground substance, which is GAGs, proteoglycans, hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid is very water pulling, so it pulls the water towards it and gives the cartilage its frictionless sort of texture as well. And obviously we have type 2 collagen, usually present in all types of cartilages. So this gives it the tough and durable component or characteristic. Alright, so now the question arises as to where these chondrocytes are coming from. Well, we've made this huge fuss about chondrocytes, and they're present inside the lacunae, and they're secreting all of this stuff, and they're making this tough and durable and frictionless connective tissue that is the cartilage, right? But where are they coming from, and how do they end up in these lacunae if they are the only cell type present inside the connective tissue that is the cartilage? Well, they come from, and as a matter of fact, every cartilage is surrounded by a dense connective tissue layer. Okay, every cartilage is surrounded by a dense connective tissue layer, and that dense connective tissue layer, I'm going to draw that here in pink, it is called the perichondrium. So every cartilage is surrounded by a dense connective tissue layer that is called the perichondrium. It is a dense connective tissue layer, and what it contains is fibroblast-like progenitor cells. Okay, it contains cells that are fibroblast-like. We studied fibroblasts in the connective tissue chapter. Fibroblasts are fusiform shaped, right? And what they do is they are present inside the connective tissue. They release the connective tissue elements, and these are cells present in the perichondrium, that is the dense connective tissue surrounding the cartilage, right? And this dense connective tissue is called the perichondrium. I'm going to write this down. Perichondrium, which is a dense connective tissue, right? And what it contains is fibroblast-like progenitor cells, okay? And these cells, what they do is they differentiate or divide into cells called chondroblasts, okay? Chondroblasts. And these chondroblasts differentiate and divide into what? Chondrocytes, right? So that's where the chondrocytes come from. The chondrocytes come from the chondroblasts, and the chondroblasts come from fibroblast-like progenitor cells, which are present inside the perichondrium. What is the perichondrium? Perichondrium is the dense connective tissue that surrounds the cartilage on the outside, on the peripheries. Okay. Now, another thing that I want to mention here is that this perichondrium, it also contains the blood vessels. So any blood vessels that would come into the cartilage, and a little amount of nerves. Almost no nerve goes into the cartilage itself, but some nerves may be present inside the perichondrium. But it definitely contains blood vessels and capillaries. So it contains the capillaries, but the capillaries do not go into the cartilage. So perichondrium is the limit of the capillaries and the nutritional input that it basically cartilage receives from the capillaries. So perichondrium contains the blood vessels, contains the capillaries, and this nutrition is deposited in the perichondrium, and it passes or goes into the cartilage without passage through any vessels, because there's no vessels present here. It goes through diffusion, okay? So basically, nutrients are released into the perichondrium, and from the perichondrium, it diffuses through the ECM, through the cartilage, into the lacunae, right, and into the chondrocytes. And so what we can say is that perichondrium contains blood vessels, right? And nutrients, I'm going to write this down because this is important. Nutrients pass into cartilage, or basically chondrocytes, which are present inside the lacunae, through what? Does this pass into the cartilage through diffusion, right? Diffusion. Excellent. Okay. So that's pretty much it for the basics of the cartilage. And now I'm going to show you a little histology slide image, so to see if you can interrelate what we have learned so far. All right. So here I have a histology slide, and almost instantly you should be able to recognize the different structures that we studied. So let's start with the top, right? So from the top we have perichondrium, right? And perichondrium is what kind of connective tissue? It is a dense connective tissue, right? So we have a dense connective tissue called the perichondrium. And what does it contain? It contains some fibroblast-like progenitor cells. I'm not going to write the whole sentence, but it is what it is. Fibroblast-like progenitor cells that divide to form different, let's assume these cells, right? Over here. These cells are called chondroblasts, right? And then those chondroblasts differentiate to form the cells that are present inside the lacunae, right? And those cells are called chondrocytes, right? So I'm going to write this down. Chondrocytes present inside the lacunae. Now, surrounding the lacunae is the extracellular matrix, and we said the extracellular matrix, colored in pink here, this is dark pink because it is dense connective tissue, and this is the cartilage connective tissue, which is very light pink. It has which collagen type? Mostly it has type 2 collagen, okay? Generally it has type 2 collagen, but there's another type of collagen that is also present in specialized cartilage, okay? So we have type 2 collagen, and we have some ECM components like proteoglycans, GAGs, which one of them is hyaluronic acid. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's move on to our neat notes and see what we have studied. Yeah. So what we have learned is the introduction to cartilage. We studied some of the basic components. What cartilage is that it is a tough, durable form of connective tissue, and it contains only one type of cells, which were the chondrocytes. These chondrocytes came from the perichondrium that contained progenitors, fibroblast-like progenitor cells that differentiated into chondroblasts, and then they gave rise to chondrocytes. And it had an ECM, right? And it contained interlinked type 2 collagen, GAGs, and proteins. Now, this ECM obviously contained no blood vessels, right? It was only receiving nutrients through diffusion, and that's what cartilage does. And cartilage also does not have any nerves present in it, so you do not feel any pain on the cartilage, and that's why it's very suited towards cushioning as well, apart from its obvious tough, durable nature as well. So cushioning function, shock absorption, sliding movements, shaping, and bone formation we will study later, but all of the other functions should be clear by now, and because of the nature of cartilage. And well, we study that chondrocytes are enclosed in lacunae. We will study what's present around those chondrocytes and what forms the lacunae in just a bit. Now, cartilage is surrounded by dense connective tissue, which is called the perichondrium, right? And it contains the vessels for nutritional support through diffusion, very important, through diffusion. Okay.